Hey guys, we're going to do our grammar today. Before we take your quiz, we're going to do page 315. So let's review sentence structure, do a couple exercises to help us to review that before you take your quiz. When you take your quiz today, you may use your book. So if you need it, go ahead and have your book there. If you need to reference and look back at your book, you may use that today. There is one diagram on the quiz, and it is a compound complex sentence. Okay, so you want to make sure that you go over that, have your book out if you need to. All right, so let's look at page 315, exercise A. We have several steps we're going to do here. We're going to be writing formulas in the blank. Okay, so remember, step number one, whenever you're trying to determine sentence structure, is to look for a comma conjunction or a semicolon. Okay, so that's what we're going to do first and draw a box around it. Okay, secondly, I'm going to find every subject and verb. Okay, now I suggest doing the brackets first. Look for that clue word. Okay, one of the relative pronouns, who, whose, whom, which, that, or one of the subordinating conjunctions. Put brackets around your dependent clauses. Okay, then you can find the subject and verbs inside and the subject and verbs outside. All right, so then in the blank, you're going to write the formula, and that formula is going to help you then determine your answer, what kind of a sentence you have. Okay, so let's look at number one. The word silly, which today means foolish, once meant helpless and defenseless. Okay, do you see a comma and a conjunction or a semicolon? No, you don't. So if you don't see a comma and a conjunction or a semicolon, then you know the sentence can't be compound and it can't be compound complex. So that narrows it down. It's either going to be simple, right, or complex. Okay, so next, look for a clue word. You see a clue word in there? I do. You see it, which today means, so you put brackets around that. All right, so I have a clue word, therefore it can't be a simple sentence. So I know, all right, then this sentence has to be complex. So what would our formula be then? All right, so let's look. We have one independent clause, which is the word silly once meant helpless and defenseless. So word meant, okay? So there's one independent plus one dependent, which today means foolish. So we have one independent plus one dependent equals complex. So you put I plus D equals complex, okay? Let's look at number two. All right, step number one, look for a comma and a conjunction or a semicolon. Do you see a comma, a conjunction, or a semicolon in that sentence? If you do, put a box around it. Okay. Hopefully you saw it and you put a box around after animal. There's a semicolon there. Okay. So I've got my box around that. Then I double check and make sure I have a subject and a verb on both sides of the semicolon. I look and I have name was given on the left, and on the other side I have squirrels and rabbits were called. Okay. So therefore, I have now narrowed it down. Since I have a semicolon, that means this sentence either has to be compound or compound complex. So now my next step is to look for clue words. Okay, so look at the sentence. Do you see any clue words? Yes, I hope you saw although. Put brackets around it. Although today a deer is a large animal with antlers on its head. My subject and verb inside is deer is, right? Okay, so I have that one. Do I have any other dependent clauses? I don't see any. I don't see any other clue words. Okay. So what is my formula then? Well, I have one dependent clause, then I have an independent and another independent. So it's going to be D plus I equals, what kind of sentence do I have? Compound complex. Good. Number three. All right. First step, do you see a comma and a conjunction or a semicolon? I do not. Therefore, it's not going to be compound. It's not going to be compound complex. So that leaves either simple or complex. So let's look at it. Do we see any clue words? Any relative pronouns, subordinate conjunctions? No, we do not. All right. What is my subject and verb? Robert Burns is considered. That's it. So my formula is I equals simple, right? One independent clause, simple sentences. Okay. Let's look at number four. Step number one. Do you see a comma, and conjunction, or a semicolon? I do not. All right. So that gets rid of the compound or compound complex. So it's either going to be simple or complex. All right. So now look for a clue word. Do you see a clue word? I don't see a clue word in there anywhere. Okay, so what's my subject? House. And my verb is would sprout. That's it. I have one independent clause, therefore I equals simple. All right, number 5. Do you see a comma and a conjunction or a semicolon? I don't, right? So that means this sentence can't be compound or compound complex. All right, do you see any clue words that we need to put brackets around? That she was willing to risk her life to save them. Good. That it needs brackets around that. The subject and verb inside is she was, right? What's the subject and verb outside? Love was. So I have one independent plus one dependent equals complex. Good. All right. Number 6. Do you see a comma, conjunction, or a semicolon? Yes. Put a box around comma and. Okay. Just double check. Make sure there's a subject and verb on both sides. I have Haman was hanged on the left. On the right, I have Mordecai was promoted. So yes, I do. Okay. Do I have any clue words? Any subordinate conjunctions or relative pronouns? No. Therefore, I have one independent clause plus one independent clause. So I plus I equals compound. Good. Last one, number 7. All right, step number 1, comma, conjunction, or semicolon. Do you see one? Yes. Put a box around, comma, but. Okay. All right, now step number 2, look for a clue word. You see any introductory words in there? I do. Did you find it? Who attempted to take Jerusalem? So put brackets around there. It's got a subject and verb inside. Who attempted? Okay. All right. Let's see what our subject and verb. Sennacherib was for the first independent clause. For the second one, angel defeated. So my formula for this one, I start with an independent clause, I. Then I have my dependent one, who attempted to take Jerusalem. Then I have another independent one. So I have I plus D plus I equals compound complex. Good job. All right. Now exercise B. This one you don't have to do all those steps and writing down, but if that helps you, if you struggle with this, I suggest that you still do those steps, especially looking for the common conjunction or the semicolon and putting a box around it, and then looking for the clue word and putting brackets around that. That's really going to help you if you find those things, okay? So number 1, substances that are normally gases do not turn into liquids unless they are refrigerated or pressurized. What kind of sentence do we have? Do you see clue words? I do. That are normally gases unless they are refrigerated or pressurized. So I see 2 dependent clauses, but just 1 independent. So what kind of sentence do I have? Did you say complex? You are right. Number 2, language, as well as the faculty of speech, was the immediate gift of God. How many subjects and verbs do you have? Language was. That's it. So what kind of sentence do I have? Simple. Good. Number 3, language most shows a man. Speak that I may see thee. Do you see a comma, conjunction, or semicolon? Yes. Semicolon, all right? So now you have to look and see, do you see any clue words? That I may see. Good. So what kind of sentence do I have then if I have a clue word and I have a semicolon? Compound complex. Good. Number 4, no abilities, however splendid, can command success without intense labor and persevering application. How many subjects and verbs do I have? Abilities, can command, and that's it. So what kind of sentence do I have? Simple. Good. Number 5. What we know here is very little, but what we are ignorant of is immense. Do you see a comma and a conjunction or a semicolon? Yes. Comma, but. All right. So that narrows it down. I know, okay, this either has to be compound or compound complex. So now search for a clue word. You see a clue word? What we know. All right. That's 1. And what we are ignorant of. So I have 2 dependent clauses and 2 independent clauses. Therefore, what kind of sentence do I have? Compound complex. Good. Number 6, the love of money and the love of learning rarely meet. Do you see a comma in conjunction? We see a conjunction, but there's not a comma with it because it's just joining 2 subjects, okay? Do you see a semicolon? No. All right, so that narrows it down. It's either going to be simple or complex. Do you see a clue word? Nope. So what kind of sentence do you have? Simple. Good. All right, number 7. Do not say I'll let you know, but always know what you say. Do you see a comma, conjunction, or semicolon? Yes, put a box around it. All right, now, do you see any dependent clauses? Introductory words? Yes. That you know, what you say. All right, so I have 2 independent, 2 dependent, therefore compound complex. Are you getting it? Are you getting the hang of it? I hope so. Number 8, what kind of sentence is it? You do that on your own. Did you say compound? I hope so. Number 9, do this one on your own. I hope you said complex because we had that clue word in there that did so highly exalt the public good, right? So I hope you saw that in there, complex. And number 10, what do you think it is? Now, I'm wondering how many of you put a box around comma and thought, oh, it's got to be compound. Okay, this one was tricky because look at your common and conjunction. And remember, in order to be compound, you have to have more than one independent clause. So you have to have a subject and a verb on both sides. So let's double check. Subject and verb on the left. And is. Okay. Subject and verb on the right. Oh, we don't have that, do we? No. So in this case, it wasn't joining 2 independent clauses. That one was really tricky. So that one is a simple sentence. All right. So now you're ready to take your quiz. As I mentioned, you may use your book. So I hope you do well on that quiz and then watch your video for Cyrano.